This is Base Hit Ball 4.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Base Hit Ball 4 podcast. I'm Glenn Denegris alongside Tyler Blumenstick and Scott Roswald, and hopefully Alex Cashman at some point. He has prior engagements he has to attend to. This is our second episode of the Base Hit Ball 4 podcast, and since dating back to the first episode, a lot of news is broken about whether or not a season is in the cards for 2020 for Major League Baseball. Basically, the rundown is the owners, they agreed to a deal for the 82-game schedule, the divisions, 82 games, as I said, all that under wraps, and they submitted it to the Players Association. And now, guys, we're in this kind of 2.5-week limbo between the Players Association and the MLB to see if games are going to be played. And there's been a lot of controversy since then. A lot of players have been sounding off, most notably Blake Snell, Trevor Bauer. On the other side, people like Mark Teixeira, former players, have keyed in and talked about this issue. So basically what's happening right now is everybody is on the same page that the most important thing is health, testing, what happens if somebody gets the coronavirus while playing, everything in terms of no fans in the stadiums. That all seems to be well and good between both sides. Now what's going to happen is the money. Back in March, when the season was delayed initially, there was a 50% pay cut for the players. Now the owners want to add an additional 33%. And Scott, that is when the players are like, no. People like Blake Snell, he came out yesterday on Twitch. He's basically saying, I'm not risking my life to make 50% less and then 33% more on top of that. So it's a big issue right now for Major League Baseball, and it would be a shame if there was no season due to money.
Yeah, Major League Baseball is at a huge tipping point right now with these negotiations for the next couple of weeks between the Players Association and the owners because of this money thing. I mean, we brought it up a little bit previously, about contracts and stuff like that. The way I'm looking at it is a lot of these guys aren't that big time. They don't have that huge contract that, of a Mike Trout, that contract Garrett Cole just signed or what Bryce Harper signed for. A lot of these guys are, on a lower level contract. There's still, the way that baseball service time is controlled is that these players are paid pretty cheaply, relatively cheaply for the first couple years of their career. And, once you're not playing and then they have to agree to this reduced, salary, plus, they're being taxed like the rest of us. They are losing money. And these players are sitting here saying, it's probably not really worth it for me to go out here and, possibly get sick and infect my family if I'm not going to be able to be making the money that I thought I was going to be making.
And it's amazing to me that I see a lot on Twitter and social media, a lot of people are siding with the owners, which is unfathomable to me because the owners are making billions of dollars and they're going to be sitting in their mansions watching these games. They're not going to be putting their lives out on the risk on a limb when players who are not making a fraction of what the owners make, regardless of a normal season or not, they're going outside and they're going to have to socialize with people and they're going to have to expose themselves potentially to the virus. And Tyler, it just boggles my mind that people have the audacity to think that the players are being the greedy ones.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a double-edged sword here. Like you really never there's no right or wrong way to go about this. I mean, you can look at it from the owner's standpoint and they're putting the product on the field. They're giving these guys a shot. They're bringing in the revenue. They're putting on a show. They're fronting all the money as it is. And then you get the smaller market teams like the Royals and stuff. Like they're incomparable to the Yankees and Dodgers of the world where they might not be necessarily turning a profit regardless. So, but then, I mean, all right, as more and more of these players have started to speak out as the proposal has been going on, I've been more on the owner's side beforehand. Now I'm more on the player side, especially with what Blake Snell said. Look, I don't think he articulated it very well personally. I think he basically hit the gist of what he said was, I mean, and most of you guys listening probably also listened to that. It was a short clip, probably about a minute and a half, but he basically went out and said that, I don't know. I just didn't like the tone of it. I mean, he said, y'all got to understand, for me to take a pay cut is not happening because the risk is through the roof. It's a shorter season, less pay. I got to make my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine, okay? And that's just the way it is for me. And it sounds kind of
selfish that a guy that makes $7 million a year, he's going to take a pay cut. If it's 50%, he makes 3.5. But
Yeah, and
it's
taxes on top of
still
it. His
taxes on
point was
top of it.
taxes.
But it's still the money that they signed for, and they feel like they deserve it. I made this reference before to a few different people. I said it to you guys, I think, and I said it to a couple of other friends. This is not a charity. This is not the Red Cross. This is a game. So to say, oh, you have to go out there and you have to play baseball to bring hope to society and give people distraction, that's not their job. Their job is to play baseball. It is per se entertainment, and fans do watch it, but the main thing of this is not to help people. I mean, baseball, whether baseball players or not, the coronavirus is still out there. Baseball's not curing anybody. So the fact that people like the governor of Illinois say that people deserve their baseball and they have the right to see baseball again, that's just not fair to the players to go out there, potentially get exposed to this virus by going outside and playing and interacting with clubhouse people and players that have been quarantined for a while and other people that go into making a baseball game work professionally. It wouldn't be fair to give them such a dynamic pay cut on top of the one they already agreed to a couple months ago.
It's true. I mean, so there's a report coming out as of 40 minutes ago. When we're recording this, it's Thursday night at about 9 o'clock. Bleacher Report came out and said that the MLB Players Association has asked the MLB for financial documents amid return to play proposal. So I'm just going to skim through this real quick. I haven't gotten a chance to read it just because I just came across it. But Ronald Blum of the Associated Press said baseball owners on Monday approved a proposal that could lead to the coronavirus delayed season starting around the 4th of July with a regular season schedule of about 82 games. Owners also gave the go-ahead to propose basing player salaries on a 50-50 revenue split, yada, yada, yada. We talked about this. Now, Ken Rosenthal said that, I'm trying to just get the correct information here. Regardless, it's a lot to go through. But now the MLB Players Association is looking for the financial documents to back it. Kind of, it seems like a little bit of a distrust between the two parties here.
Yeah, you don't know what MLB is hiding. I mean, they haven't opened their books completely. So the players, and I think players have said this before, are they going to trust Rob Manfred after everything that's transpired over the last few months and a lot of distrust between him already? Are they going to trust him to open up the books completely? Is the 50% and then on top of that 33% cut that they're getting, or the split in revenue that they're getting proposed, is that accurate to what Major League Baseball is actually making? I know there's not going to be any gate revenue because there's going to be no fans, but that doesn't mean that there isn't other aspects of revenue coming in. Basically, TV deals, merchandise, those other avenues of revenue that needs to be on the forefront, that needs to be honestly proposed and shown to the Players Association. So the Players Association and the Major League Baseball players know exactly how much Major League Baseball makes, and then they can discuss financial agreements. Because until then, Major League Baseball players don't know how much the league is making in revenue. They're blind to that.
Yeah. So I just got, while you were talking, I had a chance to skim through this a little bit. So this type of financial disclosure is more common during overall collective bargaining talks. So look, I mean, from my perspective, I think that, I mean, in a situation like this where it's very uncommon, obviously never heard of before, I think it's good to go back to that and be completely transparent on both sides, because I feel like that's the only way they're really going to get to a true and honest decision that both sides are comfortable with, if at all. And look, I hope we can see baseball this year, but as of the last couple of days, I'm not so confident that we're going to see baseball, and it's a little scary. I mean, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I have no idea.
Absolutely agree. I mean, from the feelings that I've been having, it does scare me. I know I want to watch baseball at any capacity, whether it means they're playing 80 games or 50 games or a million games. I'd watch baseball. It does scare me that there's a chance that we're not going to see it because of this whole money thing, because of the safety. We're really, I think we're at a crossroads where there's a huge chance. And one of the things I've been hearing for all the sports is if they miss out on a season, how negatively it's going to impact the years down the road. The collective bargaining agreements between the players and the ownerships of all the sports leagues are going to be affected by this, because Major League Baseball's CBA is up at the end of the 2021 season. there's going to be a huge impact on how the negotiations go down, because these owners are going to be losing a lot of money this year because there's going to be no fans in the seats, which is the number one way that they're bringing in money is by ticket sales. And then the second most important thing is concessions. People like us are going to the game and we're buying $13 beers. That's adding
22.
up. Like,
$22 grub tubs.
it's crazy the amount of money that they're making off of food and concessions and tickets. That's the only argument that the owners can make, in my opinion, is that they're going to lose this money because no one's going to be there to watch the game. They have to rely on a television deal, whereas the Phillies have a huge TV deal. The Yankees have a huge TV deal. The Dodgers have a huge TV deal. The Royals don't have a huge TV deal.
Nope.
The Rays certainly don't have a huge TV deal. There's more teams that are going to be affected negatively by – I mean, everyone's going to be negatively affected, but the amount of money is going to be disparaged across the entire league. It's going to be scary to see if, what happens here.
So I want to pose a question real quick. I saw this on Twitter. I don't remember who, but they suggested that to make up for – look, obviously it's not going to be completely back to normal and at the levels of revenue that they would be bringing in beforehand. But what do you think of, for this year only, putting advertisements on jerseys to kind of supplement that income? I mean, I don't have a problem with it personally. I think that would be fine. I think the players would be fine with it as long as their pockets are getting filled. And I feel like the owners would be fine because they're still getting the product on the field and they're going to bring in the revenue that they would have missed out on should we lose the season here.
I think there's another avenue to that problem, and that's Nike, because Nike just spent a lot of money to have the swoosh on the top right of the jersey.
That's a good point.
So is Nike going to be okay with McDonald's going to be on the left sleeve, or whatever company decides, Bud Light or whatever beer company decides to put their logo on the jersey? I feel like Nike kind of put a lot of money into the MLB jersey. I'm not sure they're going to want to share that.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's a great idea, and it's a way to get revenue in, especially for the smaller market teams that aren't going to be selling those tickets or those concessions. But Nike, this is their first year with the swoosh on the jersey. I don't think they want to share it.
Yeah, I mean,
I would agree.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, you see it's worked in the NBA when, they first proposed that and, they're going to put, sponsorships on the jerseys. I was a little scared by it, but it being a little advertisement up on the top, you don't really notice it at all. It's not on like most uniforms that like jerseys that fans can go out and buy. It's not on there. If it ever got to a point where it was like soccer and that was the main thing on the uniform, I would be so against that. But if it gets to a point where, it's a little patch on the sleeve or on the back, like up at the top of the jersey, I don't see an issue with, it getting to that. But I totally agree with Glenn, with it being the first year of Nike as the main, sponsor for Major League Baseball uniforms. I don't see it happening this year.
Something that I found interesting, especially with people like Mark Teixeira saying they should play for pennies on the dollar just to give people hope. I think that's all good and well for Mark Teixeira, who signed out of college with a $4.5 million signing bonus and signed a $180 million deal for the Yankees for 8 years and never needs to worry about money ever again. A lot of this, to me, is not about the Mike Trouts. It's not about the Bryce Harpers or Manny Machados or Garrett Coles. It's those guys who are making the minimum. The 37-year-old reliever trying to stay in, making the minimum. The kid that just came up, making the minimum. That is really where the Players Association, that's who the Players Association is standing up for. Not the multimillionaire superstars that are going to be fine if they cut the salaries by 75%. They're still going to be fine. It's those other guys, and that's what I think the common fan is forgetting about, because we're a star-driven society. So the other guys that are getting called up and making the minimum, they're going to be really affected if they get this pay cut, and I think that's really important for the Players Association to step up and get as much money for the players as possible. That's what a union's for.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things to go off of the smaller time players. Before we started this, I went on to The Athletic, and I just wanted to read on some things. I went over to Ken Rosenthal's page, and one of the articles he wrote earlier this week was, what about those guys, with the underlying health conditions? And one of those guys that he brought up was David Dahl, the left fielder for the Colorado Rockies, who, when he was in the minor leagues, had a collision with one of his teammates, which required him to have his spleen removed, which, I had no idea this had occurred. And after you have your spleen removed, your body is much more susceptible to, infectious diseases. Your immune system is much weaker. And as soon as this all started, he immediately went to his, training staff and said, what about me? How am I going to be affected? Am I even going to be able to play baseball this year? Because, if this disease is out here, this could potentially kill me because I'm one of those guys that is susceptible, long-term to this.
And there has to be other players with certain medical things such as like asthma or some breathing, cardiovascular issue that they might have. You have to put the health of players at the forefront immediately. That has to be the number one thing. And that comes back to Blake Snell saying, I'm risking my life and taking a huge pay cut. And that's where the Players Association is getting angry.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw this with Trey Mancini. I mean, he was just diagnosed with, I don't remember which type of cancer, but cancer nonetheless, terrible. He noticed this, like he said he wasn't in pain. He felt, I think it's stomach cancer, colon cancer, intestinal cancer, something of the stomach. But he wasn't in pain necessarily. He noticed it because he started getting fatigued earlier than usual while he was taking batting practice. Like this is a complete, like with anybody, not necessarily just athletes, but this is a complete possibility. There are these underlying conditions, like you said, that you might not even know. They could be even more underlying than underlying itself. And like, it is a little bit scary, and the players really, truly do have a point here.
Yeah, you're correct there. It's colon cancer for Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
And another two guys that was brought up in that article were Anthony Rizzo and John Lesser on the Chicago Cubs, both cancer survivors. Rizzo, there was a quote from Rizzo in there saying that he checked in with his doctors. They said he's healthier than ever, that, he would be fine. But, there's a chance. You don't know. And you don't – if you're a guy like Rizzo or Lester or – I mean, Mancini's already ruled himself out for the year. But, you wouldn't want to take that risk. It's a huge, huge risk that you would have to take.
And something you really need to think about, whether or not, let's just say hypothetically that next week comes around, they come up with an agreement and they're going to play baseball. They're going to start June 10th, spring training 2.0, and then July 4th is opening day. There's still going to be players that sit out, that say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to risk myself. I don't want to risk my family. I don't think it's a good idea to be playing, and they're going to sit out. So it's really a hard thing to really digest and really try to figure out if you're the Players Association and if you're Major League Baseball, because this is just an unprecedented time in society. So it's going to be a weird season nonetheless. But if players start to decide, hey, I'm going to sit this year out, that's a problem.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely agree.
So I'm not completely sure of it myself, but do you guys know what happens say there is no season? How do contracts get handled? Like, say somebody's got 2 years left on the deal. Once we resume next year after the pandemic blows over, do they still have 2 years?
If somebody's due to be a free agent, so for example, for the Yankees, no matter if there's games or not played, Paxton, LeMahieu, Gardner, Tanaka, free agents.
But they're not getting paid. That's the thing. If there's no season, they're not getting paid. So are they just
in
shit out of luck?
In the agreement from 2 weeks ago,
it was agreed
that they get a full year service time, whether they're games or not.
That's terrible. I don't like that.
Which is crazy because the Phillies could lose a guy like JT Realmuto, who they gave up, their top pitching prospect. And
how about the Dodgers? Mookie Betts can never play a game for the Dodgers. They gave up a big haul to Boston, Verdugo plus, Jeter Downs.
Wow, imagine that.
And Mookie Betts might just re-sign with the Red Sox and never play a game for the Dodgers. I don't see Mookie Betts re-signing with the Red Sox, because if the Red Sox didn't have the money this offseason, they're not going to have it next offseason. But hypothetically, it could happen.
Yeah, which would be crazy for the Dodgers. Have to give up, a guy like Alex Verdugo, who's a good hitter, a top prospect in, Jeter Downs at shortstop. I mean, the Dodgers were in a situation where they could give up, prospects to make a move
Yeah,
or
for sure.
Mookie
Yeah.
Betts. But it's huge to, potentially make a move like that and the guy never plays a game for your team. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I feel like, look, if it were me in that position of decision making in this situation, I don't understand how you can take a year of service time away from a guy or the whole league at least, and when they're not earning,
I
like,
can't imagine the Players Association, though, allowing a freeze on service time when people work so hard to get to that free agent year.
that's true, but you look at it both ways, I guess. There's people that benefit from it, and there's people that it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts the major teams. The Yankees are going to have a
Yeah.
bunch of free agents that are significant. Paxton, LeMahieu, their best hitter.
Mhm.
Gardner, their leader. Tanaka, another one of their best pitchers.
Yeah.
The Dodgers we talked about. They might lose bets. That's just the way it is.
Well, and we lose cheap years out of guys like Judge and Sanchez.
Exactly.
And
Then they're getting
Severino,
year
and
close
it's
to the arbitration. That's
yeah.
why it's so important that these two sides get a season, get some sort of season, because a lot of teams, their window is 3 to 4 years max, and then it gets cut down to 2 to 3 years because of the season that might not happen. So it's really rough,
Absolutely.
especially for the high market teams that are built to win now. I don't think the Orioles really care from a baseball standpoint if there's games or not, because they're not close to winning. But a team like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, I don't know, whatever team is the Astros, who are built to win today, take a year away from their window, that could be detrimental.
Good. I hope it is to them.
Well, everything's all right for the Astros. Yeah, they can screw off. But every other team that's built to win now, not having a 2020 season and not having that opportunity to win when your young stars are about to get paid in arbitration and then eventually free agency, the Yankees can't keep everyone. They can't keep Judge and Sanchez and Severino and Torres and Hicks and all these people coming up. They can't keep all of them. Some of them are going to move on, and then the Yankees.
I mean, Hicks and Sevy are they're signed for
they're
those
locked up
10
long
mil.
term.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
10 mil, 7, 5, 6 year.
But
deals,
you might
whatever
need
it is.
to trade a Hicks and eat some of the money in order to sign Judge to an extension.
Exactly. That's
I mean,
rough,
the Hicks contract was an investment, and so is the Severino one.
for sure.
But
One of the other guys I would like to, throw out there with this, free agency thing is, your former shortstop, my new shortstop in Didi Gregorius, went out and signed a 1-year contract with the Phillies. Coming off of Tommy John surgery, he struggled last year, did not produce to the same, standards that you guys have gotten used to. But for him, this was going to be a prove me year in a stadium like Citizens Bank Park where it's friendly for hitters. He could have put up big numbers in that lineup and parlayed that into a nice, contract in the next offseason. But for him, there's a chance that he's going to lose out on a whole year to prove himself. Is he going to want to go back into the free agency market where there's going to be less money for these players this upcoming offseason? Will he end up coming back to Philadelphia? I would hope so. He loves Joe Girardi, the new manager. He has a great relationship there. He needs that opportunity to, build up his, stock again. And there's a lot more guys like that where they're going into free agency this upcoming season, and they're probably going to lose out on a lot of money because of, potentially not playing.
I mean, you talk about Didi. He had a bad year in 2019, and you're thinking back, if he was a free agent after 2018 or 2017, he's going to get Xander Bogaerts money. Now coming off of 2019 and then not playing in 2020, that money's gone. And he's going to have to sign another 1-year deal, and then he's going to be another year into his closer to 30. He might be 30 already. I think he's 30 now. So his age 31 season, he's a free agent. And then that long-term deal is not coming because teams aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, and it sucks for players who are like at that 29, 30, 31 age, because you look at a guy in his age 29 year as a free agent, completely different than you look at a guy that's 30, purely based on the optic of the 2 in front of your age or the 3. And if you're 29 now and you're about to be 30 in the off season, it's just the whole conversation surrounding your contract talks that just completely drives the gears. And it sucks for a guy who's doesn't really have a shot to go out there and show what he's got and go out and get his money. And don't know, it's just going to be weird. I just want to see what happens. I'm curious. It's only a matter of days, right?
Well, if they're talking about June 10th as the start of spring training or mid-June start of spring training, they can't negotiate while it starts. They can't just say, okay, let's play and then we'll work on it as we go along. They need to figure it out, sign a deal, and then they start playing. So they have like 2 weeks to get this done.
I mean, they could always push it back, like, should they have to. But
yeah, I mean, they could push it back where July spring training and then end of July, August is when it starts.
But once you do that, you lose games, and
I mean,
then it gets messy.
I think they're set on this 82 game. If it's not 82 game season, I don't think they're going to do it.
I've heard between 78 and 82. That's what Ken Rosenthal originally reported.
They're not going to play. They're not going to play 41 games.
No.
There's no point. I mean, there's a point, I guess, but is it worth it? Is the point?
And at that point, it wouldn't be worth it at all because whatever they did, whoever came out at the top at the end of the year, that's not going to mean anything. You won 40 games, and then you played 40 games, and then you go into a postseason and you win a World Series.
So if they're going to extend the wild card format, 2 more teams, so 14 teams make the playoffs, and you play 41 games, and a team goes 21-20 or whatever, and then they go on a run and win the World Series, what is that? Is that really an accomplishment compared to other years? I think you need at least the 82 or 78. You need a good chunk. You need a good 8-9 weeks of regular season to determine who's worthy of making a playoffs, and then when you get to that point, who's worthy of being a champion.
It's still not enough.
And another part, it's not enough because another part of this whole thing is when you play 162, you can have a tough 2-3 weeks. You can have a below average month as a team. You can't afford to have that now. If we're going to be playing 78
and I think that I actually
games,
think that adds interest to this season if it happens, because 2 to 3 weeks in a normal season, they'll turn it around eventually. 2 to 3 weeks bad in August this year, team's done.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting compared to a season where you can take a couple weeks off. I mean, you see it all the time when managers will take out their best players just to give them a break. There's going to be no just take a break today kind of thing this year because you can't afford it because it's a sprint and not a marathon.
It's true.
Exactly.
So in an 82-game season, how many off days do you think the average guy like an Aaron Judge or a Mike Trout or somebody like that?
Well, Aaron Judge is a bad example because he still has this rib issue.
That's true. But like these superstars, top caliber players, where they would normally play what 140 in a year.
So in 82, they probably play 76, 75.
That's a lot of games consecutively. That's a lot of games. It's going to be rough.
If they're going to be adding in a universal DH, you can, start resting these guys in different spots in different days. You can move that around. Last year, I think Bryce Harper played, like 155. He played a large portion of the season. The only time he missed time was to go home for the birth of his son. That guy's a gamer. He's going to be out there every single day. If there's the one thing that is going to be approved upon is this universal DH across the league for this 2020 season. It gives teams opportunities to get that additional bat into the lineup. It gives the Phillies the opportunity to, play Jay Bruce every single day, get him into the lineup. And then, when we're at game 55, 56, you can rest Bryce Harper. You can put him in the DH spot. You can rest, Rhys Hoskins, put him in the DH spot, just get them at bats, keep them, loose. That's the only thing I have heard so far that is going to be agreed upon is this DH.
I thought about this morning in regards to the DH. If we force the National League this year, which it looks like it'll happen if there's a season, if we force them to have a DH, I wonder if it just becomes the norm and they never take it away. And they finally just say DH forever in every.
I hope that's the case. Dude, I saw a tweet last night. It was, I think it was CBS Sports came out with one of those fan questions, and they were like, "What is one personal sports take?" I think Cash responded to it, so I clicked on it and I looked at the replies. They're like, "What's one personal sports take that's or unpopular sports opinion that you'll never change your mind on?" And somebody said, "The DH ruins baseball." I was like, I'm sitting there thinking, it's like midnight. Like, I'm about to close my eyes, and I start thinking, I'm like, how can anybody possibly think that the National League not having a DH is like good for baseball? Like, you want more
Well,
offense. You don't want to see a pitcher hit. It
back in
ruins
the
rallies.
'70s, they said free agency would ruin baseball, and I think free agency has enhanced baseball and enhanced all sports.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
I mean, Scott's the National League guy in this podcast.
I will make.
I'm sure he
I
loves
can make
the pitchers hitting.
Yeah, I can make my argument for, having both, having that split. It puts more pressure on your manager. It makes your manager have to
But
be able to
nobody under
manage a
normal
game.
circumstances when we're allowed in a ballpark is buying a ticket to see what Joe Girardi is going to do in the seventh inning.
But it
That's
adds
true.
an extra dynamic of, we're at a spot, we're coming up late in the game. We got to make a double switch here. We want to, you got to manage your bullpen a little bit different. I mean, managing your bullpen is going to be different this year anyway with the 3-batter limit anyway. So the game is evolving. It creates.
Is it exciting? Is it really exciting?
I mean,
To the baseball savant who loves the strategy of the game, it is exciting. I think it's exciting sometimes, but
It can be.
The
but
casual
it sucks
fan,
when your pitcher comes up and the bases are loaded,
Yeah.
and Aaron Nola's coming up the plate. I'm not expecting him to get a hit. The rally ends there. Not every pitcher even wants to go up there and hit. So I mean, it's probably the smart way.
they don't even take the bat off their
DH it.
shoulder half the time,
Yeah,
It's non-competitive.
and they don't know how to
Where-
bunt either. If they were all really good bunters, that's one argument that they could have. They're not. They can't even bunt.
They don't really
unless
work on
Madison
it
Bumgarner's
necessarily.
coming up. Like there's
Well, if you're
not
a
really
National League
chance.
team, you should work on bunting, but they clearly don't because they can't do it.
It's
They
just a
take-
systematic thing across baseball, all of baseball. How many kids on our club baseball team in college could bunt?
Not many. Scott Ritchie.
I actually
Me
watched.
and Scott Rickey.
That's about it.
I was actually talking about this with a couple friends last night because it was like 1 a.m. and MLB Network was playing Game 5 of the 2001 World Series between the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. And you remember Scott Brocious hits the home run in the bottom of the ninth to tie the game off Kim, the submarine reliever. Second straight day, he blows it. Whatever. Everyone remembers that. People don't remember in the 12th, Knobloch gets a single, and then Brocious is up again. And he actually bunts. So he just hit a home run the at-bat before to tie the game, and now he's bunting. And I said that to my friend the other day, that would never happen anymore. Bunting is just like a lost art in baseball. So without bunting, at this point, just put in the DH in the National League.
And it's the thing with interleague play
it's
too.
inevitable.
Like if you're in interleague play, the National League team inevitably has an advantage because you build your team differently. Look, I'm not saying it's like the end all be all because it's not. It's that 26th man on the roster. But you have that extra offensive player, and then you also bring in the American League team playing in the National League ballpark with pitchers that, unless they've played for a National League team in their career, they have never really hit before. And even managers, they've never managed having a pitcher there. It's just a disadvantage with interleague play getting to the point that it has been over the past couple of years. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like you have to have a universal rule set. They're not two completely different leagues now.
Would you agree for the NL keeps their rules, the AL keeps their rules, but in the World Series, there's a DH? Scott, would you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that because then that just – I don't know. I think if you're going to go one way, just go all the way. And at this point, it's going to be the DH.
Because you remember years ago, David Ortiz had to play first base.
Yeah,
I
it
think that
negatively
should
affects the Red Sox. He wasn't a defender at all.
But it also promotes getting guys out in the field. Like when you have a DH, like you don't burn guys out. Like it puts people like Giancarlo Stanton, who might not be the best fielder. Look, he's not a shabby fielder by any means, but he's not elite. But on the days that he is out there, it gives him that extra boost of energy, that extra little kind of kick in the ass because he's got those off days coming up where he can just focus on hitting, and he might be able to bust his ass a little bit more in the field. I don't know. I'm all for.
The problem is if you put in Stanton to play left, you're taking Gardner out. And Gardner's a very important piece of what the Yankees do offensively.
That is true. But I mean, that's just one case of it.
It's not even for the DH in the American League. You got to put someone out in the field that isn't used to playing the field. You're also taking a solid guy out of the lineup.
Yeah.
So it's a double whammy because you're getting a less of a defender and you're losing someone who might also be a dynamic hitter. Because if you're the Yankees, you got to choose between Stanton or Gardner. Or if you're the Red Sox, you have to choose between Benintendi or one of the outfielders, Jackie Bradley Jr. and JD Martinez. So it's tough.
Look, I'll always be an advocate for having the offensive players hit and letting the pitchers do their thing and pitch. Like, I feel like you can't go wrong with that.
Ching-Ming Wong was the ace of the Yankees. And then he got hurt running the bases because he's not used to running the bases.
That's true.
He didn't stretch his muscles to be adequate at running the bases, and he got hurt. He was never the same.
It happened recently, didn't it? With like a big name guy. I don't remember who it was.
Didn't a pitcher on the Braves a few years ago? Didn't like Tim Hudson or something on the Braves
Hudson broke
his ankle running the bases, right?
Yeah.
Or was he stepped on by a
necessary?
I don't remember. I don't think it's necessary too.
I was going to say the Phillies had Charlie Morton a couple years ago, and I think like 2 weeks into the season, he blew out his hamstring running to first base. Didn't pitch again the rest of the season, and then went off to the Astros and became a World Series champion and is now a dominant pitcher in baseball. But, he was a guy, that went down because it probably makes sense because, then at that point, the pitcher can just focus on, going out there, throwing strikes, doing their job on the mound. Whereas, most of the time, as we said, they don't want to hit. They don't want to be up there whatsoever, unless it's Madison Bumgarner, who takes pride in trying to hit a baseball 5 million feet every single time he's up there. But, most guys aren't like that.
I worry too much about my pitcher's arms exploding. I don't have the time or the patience to worry about them pulling an oblique swinging the bat. That's my argument. They're worth so much money. They're worth so much money for their arm that they're going to pull their oblique, fouling a ball off that they weren't going to put into play anyway. I don't get it.
Yeah. It was Tanaka in 18. Do you remember that? That's who I was thinking of. So I found an article. This was after Tanaka got hurt. So it says Tanaka now joins Ching-Ming Wong, Stephen Wright, Adam Wainwright, Carlos Zambrano, Jacob deGrom, and Mark Pryor, among others, as prominent pitchers injured while running the bases or hitting. That list is too long.
And it's too good.
Those guys are elite pitchers.
It's a too good of a list too.
Why do those guys need to be out running the bases?
Season. Let's say there wasn't a DH in the National League this year, right? And the Mets already lost Syndergaard for Tommy John. And Jacob deGrom pulls his oblique, is out for 4 to 6 weeks. We talked about earlier, if a bad 4-week stretch kills your season, that kills the Mets this year. Because of something that deGrom isn't even paid to do. I don't understand the argument anymore for the pitcher hitting. I don't want to hear about the strategy of the manager. Because we talked about this when this was a radio show. What does the manager even do anyway?
You know how I feel about that.
At this point, we don't even know. We don't know.
We don't.
Because who knows, who's in his ear before the game starts, who's giving him the reports. I don't want to, rehash too much. We talked about it when Girardi was the Yankees manager. Like, the guy's a phenomenal manager. Like, let him do his job. A guy like Joe Madden is a great manager. Let him do his job. But now their teams are bringing in guys. The Phillies had one in Gabe Kapler, who's kind of he was kind of a puppet. Aaron Boone, is he a puppet or is he a manager?
I don't know.
Maybe the first year.
That's your point. We don't know.
I mean, we're hiring guys like Aaron Boone and Alex Cora who never managed, never coached before on the professional level, and they're winning 100 games per year. I mean, it goes back. It's really any sport. Is Steve Kerr a good coach, or does he have the best roster? Is Bill Belichick a good coach, or does he have Tom Brady? It's the age-old question between Bill Belichick's good. But when he was on the Browns, he wasn't. So
that is true.
It's the age-old question. Is it the players or is it the coach? That's what it is.
It'll always be 90% the players.
I think there are good coaches, and I think there are bad coaches. Another sport, football, I think Pat Shurmur's a bad coach. I don't think anything he can do could work. But
I told you guys going into that. You didn't believe me.
The good coaches and the good managers will bring a team from 85 to 90. A good manager is not going to take a 60-win team and make them an 80-win team. I think the wins
agree.
added from a manager is not as high as what others think. And that's my
Yeah,
argument.
but
I
then you look
absolutely
at
agree.
but the thing is, then you look at WAR, and what is the highest possible WAR we've seen out of a player in the last couple of years?
Trout.
And what is it over a course of a season? 7, 8?
And his team doesn't make the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, but my point being, if you're arguing that managers can bring a good manager can bring a team from 85 wins to 90 wins, you look at WAR. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's a direct comparison because obviously there's no statistics to
Trout's
go behind
2019 WAR was 8.2.
Yeah, and he's the best player in the league. So if you're saying that a manager can bring a team from 85 wins to 90 wins, that's pretty legit. I mean,
it could be a difference between being out of the playoffs and being a wild card. What I'm saying in that argument is you're not going to take over the Baltimore Orioles. You're not going to give them Casey Stengel and all of a sudden they're winning 88 games.
Exactly. Look, it's true. I mean, we'll just never know. That's the truth. That's what it comes down to.
Have you guys been watching the KBL?
I watched one game.
Wait
about
till
really
four
good.
innings.
I got to get up and go to work.
Those Dinos are on a roll. They're 6-1.
I bet against the Dinos the first game, fell asleep in the fourth inning.
Shouldn't have done that.
I wanted the home dogs. I think, who was it, Samsung Lions I bet on? I don't know.
I think they're entertaining. And I think it's a good little preview into what a season this year could look like. I think it's funny
baseball's baseball.
Yeah, it's funny that behind home plate, I think it's the Dinos. They have like cardboard cutouts of fans.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I watch and it's like I don't really notice that the fans are gone. I think they pump in like static noise to create like an ambiance of what fans would sound like. And I think Joe Buck actually tweeted this today, like Fox Sports is going to like pump in crowd noise on their broadcast. I don't know how that'll sound.
They probably should. That'd be cool.
I think it could work with no fans. It's weird. I know the UFC yesterday had no fans. And
I like it. I like it a lot.
I mean, you're not going to get the vibe that fans would bring. You're not going to bring the 2-strike. Everyone rises their feet. Everyone gets amped. But it's not as awful as I thought it would look watching the KBO. I didn't really It was still watching baseball to me.
Look, when they first came out with the KBO airing on ESPN stuff, I got excited for it. I was like, oh, nice. Like, we're going to have baseball. But then you look at the times that they air it and, like, you just can't possibly get excited for it because it's either really early in the morning and you wake up for it. If you wake up for it, I think you're a psycho, no matter what.
I think the
if you like
opening
baseball,
day,
fine.
I think like the opening day for KBO, the games were at like 1 a.m. I can do that.
That's fine.
I can do 1
that.
a.m. I think that's actually cool. But
5:30 is brutal.
The majority is 5:30, and that's just disgusting. I can't do it.
Brutal. But there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, the time difference is the time difference. And if you start catering to the Americans who want to watch it on TV, then you're putting the Koreans whose livelihoods
they're going to be playing at 1 in the morning.
You can't do that to them. But it's just hard to get behind because, look, you wake up at, say, even 8 in the morning, you're catching the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. I mean, you're tired either way just to watch some baseball. And, like, look, if I happen to be up, I'll watch it. But I'm not going to stay up to watch the what is it, NC Dinos versus Samsung Lions again. It's not going to happen.
I think
I fell asleep. I was excited for the first game, and I still
flips
fell
are great.
asleep.
The games are actually entertaining. The quality of play is better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's good.
The bat flips. That's where it's at.
The bat
They're
flips
crazy.
are where it's at.
The thing is, they're flawless. Like they go, and then the bat just like seems to just wave out of their hand.
Because they know they got it.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I don't know. That's great.
It's a more respectful bat flip. That's the thing, and it's not even like I don't know if it's a culture thing or what, but like here, you do it and you're trying to show off, and like it's just I don't know. It just looks a lot more elegant over there. It's I don't know how to explain it other than that.
It's a classier game over there.
It is a classier game. I agree.
So,
what do we got?
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at empty stadiums around. And a lot of teams, they don't even know where they're going to play. I know California, they put a 3-month ban extension on gatherings. So if the Dodgers and Angels need to play. I know the Florida governor announced that he can house any team, or Arizona.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to. You might not see games at Dodger Stadium this year.
Well, they're dying to fill Tampa Stadium with games and
Dying.
stuff. Like, you're what is it, Tropicana Field? You're not going to get any fans in there, obviously. I mean,
Well,
shockingly,
there's no fans in normal circumstances.
Yeah, but like they're just dying to get anything there. I mean, I feel like other than the Heat, who else is in Florida? The what?
The what sports teams
Marlins?
in Florida?
Yeah, but I'm saying they're not pulling crowds. That's the thing. Like maybe the
Lightning?
Jaguars get a crowd, the Lightning get a crowd.
The
No, the
Panthers.
Jaguars do not get a crowd.
But they get their fans. That's the thing. The Rays don't even get that.
Football gets their fans, but the baseball teams, the Rays and the Marlins, they're not selling out.
And the Heat are in Miami.
Florida and Los Angeles.
There's just so much more.
There's
So much more to do.
Yeah.
I don't think they care. I don't know if they care.
No, they don't.
But if it was a centralized
also,
location,
it's really not fair to Tampa, because I feel like Tampa would embrace the Rays if the games were actually in Tampa. When I lived in Florida this fall, like I went to a Rays game and I got to Tampa and it was still another 90 minutes to get to the stadium. Because you got to go over the bridge to St. Pete.
That's crazy.
They should just call them the St. Pete Rays. That's such an ugly name.
We'll call the Jets and Giants New Jersey Jets and New Jersey
The
Giants.
East Rutherford Giants.
East Rutherford.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's going to be crazy, whichever way it ends up going.
What else is on? What else is on the table?
I mean, we never got the Bauer.
Bauer. The guy's a lunatic. I mean, he's not wrong.
He's got a point.
But just the way he says it, he's kind of a little irritating.
I think he's so arrogant.
The thing with that is
his ERA isn't good enough for him to be so arrogant.
That is exactly my point. Exactly my point. I looked up his stats yesterday because I wanted to, see. The guy is not good enough to think that, to think as highly as he does of himself. A career, 4.04 ERA. He's had one sub-3 ERA season. That was 2018. He had a 2.21. He had a great year in 2018. Every other year of his career has been absolutely garbage. 2016, he had the drone incident where he sliced open his finger and couldn't even pitch in the postseason. He was terrible in the World Series when they lost to the Cubs. The guy's a lunatic, and he isn't good enough to act the way that he does. That's why I hate him.
But at the same time, he makes good points, which frustrates you because you're like, I don't want to agree with you because I think you're insane. But he makes good points. I mean, something he said in his tweet was absolutely true. Major League Baseball announced that they agreed, right? They agreed to the whatever agreement they made for baseball to happen this season without proposing it to the players. So now it looks like, and Bauer talked about this, now baseball looks great. And if the players don't agree, they're the villain. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because everyone who doesn't think for themselves and just sees that and says, oh, we're going to have baseball this season unless the players say no, then they're greedy. Baseball made the players look bad from the start by announcing this grand, agreement that they made this week.
I feel like it would have gotten out regardless. But I have a question going back to that. So you guys Glenn, you specifically, are notorious for knocking Trout for not speaking up.
Nope, not speaking up.
Guys like Trout and speaking up like that.
He doesn't even need to speak up. He can just do the home run derby once. I mean, come on.
Yeah, all right, but let me ask you this. You're knocking Trevor Bauer for speaking up. And he's good enough to the point where he can open his mouth and people will listen. So what is the difference between, aside from talent, what's the difference between Mike Trout? Should he speak up? He has spoken up.
I'm not knocking Trevor. I just said Trevor Bauer makes good points.
Yeah.
My problem with Trevor Bauer is that he's a little bit too for Trevor Bauer. He's like, this is going to be
nerdy. He's a nerdy tech statistical guy.
He's just
very analytically driven.
What's my problem
and he uses
with
that to get better?
I don't know how to articulate my problem with Trevor Bauer. I don't know. I just feel like it's like he has this certain agenda that he's trying to push for himself and not the betterment of the game.
He does not care about his team. He cares about himself, and he cares about what he does out on the mound.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
He has his own media company. What was it called? I don't know what it's called.
Is it Momentum? Is that what it is?
Momentum. And he puts out these videos of him knocking the commissioner and always being negative. And that's not positive to the game. That's not growing the game. Him, a baseball player. Did he make an all-star team? He has, right?
Yeah, he definitely did.
So an all-star player
2018.
consistently just going at Rob Manfred. You remember he called him, a fucking idiot a couple months ago over that new playoff system where the teams pick their opponent or whatever.
That's fair, though. That's fair. I would call him an idiot for that.
Yeah, but then he just starts screaming.
But to publicly go out there and just continually bash your ultimate superior doesn't.
I mean,
look
you know how Dave Portnoy constantly goes out Goodell.
Yeah,
that's kind of how Trevor
similar.
Bauer is with Manfred, and
I could see that.
Like,
I mean, obviously, different relationship.
Use your voice to be a positive influence on the game instead of just completely knocking it.
But then you take that point, and you can also argue though that he is trying to make a positive influence on it, but he's just articulating it differently. Because I think he truly does want to better the game. I don't think he's totally selfish.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I think he can be misunderstood at times, and most times, honestly. But he just comes off as kind of like a whiny.
Yeah, that's what he does. He whines, he complains.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I think the basis behind it is good.
I think the best example of baseball people or baseball players using a voice like a podcast such as this to enhance the game is what CC and Ryan Rucco do. Yep. I think their podcast is the best baseball podcast out there, other than this one, obviously. But seriously, what they do, they bring in guys, they talk about just about life and the grind of a season. You learn so much with those two. I think Trevor Bauer, instead of talking about that, just chooses to whine all the time.
Yeah.
That's my problem with Trevor Bauer.
Well, I mean, what do you think of what he did? Was that last year when they were in Kansas City and he threw the ball into the stands as he got pulled?
I thought that was funny, actually.
It was funny and childish at the same time. It was awful. You can't do that. You can't
absolutely childish.
But to be fair, we've all had that moment on a diamond where you just want to
never
the ball.
Yeah, when we were children.
You want to do it, but you don't do it.
No, you don't do it, but you want to.
Oh, of course. But the
like
fact
when I saw that
when
I saw that for the first time, I was like, yeah, I know that feeling. I've never acted on it. Actually, no, I have.
That's the difference, though.
When I was 12, I struck out on a bad call, and I threw my helmet in the direction of the umpire. So that's my story.
I did get ejected once. I struck out 4 times swinging. I went back into the dugout. I was like 11, slammed my helmet into the dugout, and the ump tossed me from the game for no reason.
Slam the helmet, or did you drop any words?
It was literally my own fault. No, I was mad at myself. I struck out swinging 4 times. It wasn't like I looked at a pitch that was 5 feet outside and I got rung up. It was just 4 pitches I swung at, and I
that's a bad job on the umpire, though, because you swung.
And
you swung and missed.
Just gave me the heave. It was the worst moment of my life.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11, 12.
I never get mad when kids or anyone I'm watching playing slams their helmet. I don't understand why.
I don't know why umpires take offense to that. That drives me nuts.
Especially if you're in Scott's case, you're striking out swinging. So it's not like you agree with the call and say that was a bad call, you suck, and then slam the helmet like I did.
Yeah.
It's literally me being mad at myself.
I don't know. It's all about the sportsmanship, which I think is overrated anyway. Can't stand it. Like Little League, when they I always hated after a loss I had to shake their hand.
All right. You're taking it a little too far there, Glenn.
As kids, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I was a little at points in college. I was like, I don't want to shake their hand. They just absolutely kicked our
we're
ass.
adults. They're adults.
I never wanted to shake Temple's hand, to be fair. I hated that team.
They were good, though.
What I would do when I was pissed, I would just not say anything. I just put my fist out, and I just wouldn't say.
That's it.
It's much more enjoyable when you're on, the winning side of things.
It just pisses me off.
That's all you can do.
22 years old, and I'm like, oh, good game. Fuck that. That's so stupid. I listened to The Fan today, and Scott Boris, our good old friend who we talked about last episode, he was on. He said something.
He's been on a lot lately.
He's the voice of the players. That's what he is.
Somebody's got to do it, and he's an intelligent guy, and I think he's kind of toned it back a little bit lately.
Represents the biggest names, so he might as well.
Here's the unintelligent thing that he said.
I'm curious. Let's hear it.
He said in regards to this season, it'll go into October, the regular season, and then November the playoffs would start, and that would probably force baseball to have a neutral site World Series for this year. And Boris was making the argument that should be how it is every year, neutral site World Series. I think that's the dumbest idea ever.
No,
you can't do that.
Every year is dumb. It takes the fans are what makes the game. Having that opportunity to win a Game 7 in front of your own fans, that's what you dream of when you're a kid. You want to do that in front of your home fans. Obviously it makes sense for this year. We're in a situation where the postseason gets into, late November, December, and we have to have a World Series and we go play in, Miami, where they have, a roof, or you go to an LA where it's warm. Yeah, it makes sense, for that situation. But every single year moving forwards would be the dumbest thing ever.
His argument is that you can get corporations down. You can have
nobody wants that.
Like how Super Bowl week is, but they sell 7 games and there's corporations down and the fans fly down. Nope. First of all, fans aren't going to fly down. 2, what if a fan flies down and has tickets to games 5 and 6 and it's a sweep? So then what?
You can't do that.
It makes no sense. And the great thing about baseball is the crowds in the playoffs. To me, I think it's great.
You, Cash, and I sat in the literal top row.
Yeah,
the last row.
Our view was obstructed by the freeze.
Yeah, look.
Yeah,
we had the best time. What was it? ALCS game 3, 4. Like, it wasn't even necessarily a pivotal.
If we were higher up, we'd be at home.
we'd be the snipers on the roof.
We were the last row in the upper deck in left field, and it was the most fun I've had at a baseball game.
But that's the point. Like that's it. Like, you need to have people that can still even enjoy the game sitting in that last
Super Bowl,
seat.
I guess, because it's like a holiday, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's one game.
It's one game, and people will spend the money to go. Baseball is very popular, but is baseball that seismic of a thing? Is the World Series that important to people who aren't in the market where the teams are playing? Are people from Kansas City going to fly to Miami to watch the Yankees-Dodgers World Series? I don't think they will.
No,
absolutely.
But people from Kansas City will fly to Miami to see a Giants-Patriots Super Bowl because it's a Super Bowl.
Yes,
that's true. Well, it's a one game. Back to your point, where with the game 5, 6, and 7, like, you just never know when the series is going to end. It's not a one and done Super Bowl. So,
and also, is First Take going to do remotes from the World Series every single day? They don't do it anyway. I think they wanted to make it Super Bowl week. I just don't think baseball's on the – nothing is. I don't think baseball or anything is on the same scale of the NFL.
No.
And it's too long. You have to space those games out for, pitching purposes. You can't play 5 games in a row and expect game 6 to have, a quality game when every single pitcher can't pick up their arm because they've been throwing the last week. It's a longer process. You can't expect it to be an extravaganza.
No,
absolutely not.
I thought it was the dumbest thing. Sometimes I think Scott Boras just says things just to get us talking, and it works. But this is one of his worst ideas I've ever heard. But what are you gonna do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about the draft, it's basically this year it's gonna be 5 rounds. So subtract 35 rounds from a normal draft, and now it's only 5. And Scott, a lot of kids miss out that opportunity to get drafted, and they're losing a pretty significant payday for some of them. Some of them aren't getting any money, and they're going to have to sign as free agents. Because a lot of people bank on that signing bonus after getting drafted.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that's going to be happening. Major League Baseball announced going to this 5-round draft, and any player that goes undrafted in this draft would be eligible to sign a contract to up to $20,000. It's an interesting concept because, that's a significantly less, amount of money, that you could get out of a bonus. And one of the things that stood out to me the most is these high school seniors, who obviously are missing out on their seasons, which stinks. Those top tier guys are going to get drafted. But what's going to happen to all these, other kids? They're going to have to go to a college. do they have a place on this, the school that, that's been recruiting them? They're going to have to go JUCO. Then also you have to look at, these college baseball teams that they have limited scholarships available. NCAA has granted, seniors a 5th year of eligibility to come back for another year. So these teams are going to be in a crunch for, roster spots. I think it's going to have a huge impact on, baseball going forwards, because we don't know where a lot of these kids are going to end up. Could, impact their careers moving forwards.
Now, here's something that I thought about with the draft, especially the kids that are graduating college and they have nowhere to go but pro. Like, after 6th round, that's not non-existent. 6th round and up, teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers, the Phillies, the high market teams, they can just, like a buffet, they can just take all these players, right? Because what the 6th, 7th, 8th round, they keep the major teams at bay, 1 pick per round. So the Yankees could hypothetically get 15 guys who are going to be 5th round picks because they have the money to do so. And a team like the Rays can't do that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't thought of that.
They could just start, swooping in, scooping up kids as fast as possible, which would be very interesting. I mean,
there's a lot of diamonds in the rough from the 5th round on.
There's plenty.
It's not
talent is always going to get found.
It's not like the
Albert
NFL
Pujols
draft where a lot of the
15th
guys
round
in the 6th and 7th round get cut and they never really make it. There's a lot of people who are significant players later on from the 5th round and up.
Yeah,
And
Pujols was a 15th round pick, and he's arguably one of the greatest players of all time. I think Mike Piazza was like a 31st round draft pick, and he's a Hall of Famer. You can find guys anywhere.
If I'm the Athletics, I'm angry that I can't have the picks where the top teams or the top or financially strong teams can't be held down to 1 pick per round. They could all and where do the kids want to? If the kids had offers from every single team, where are they going to sign? When they have the power now to
Dodgers,
choose.
Red Sox.
It's true. But it depends also. You might want an easy path to the majors or an easier path. There's no easy path to the majors, but you never know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
And going forward with the draft, and we already see this problem with that I was talking about. We're talking about with American players. With the international players, there's no international draft. So the teams just sign them. And there's baseball kind of limits it by putting an international cap on how much you can spend in a certain offseason, I believe it is. And if you
have a certain amount of money.
If you pass it, then you don't have any money the next year. I think that's how it works. Is baseball going to do that with the American amateur free agent class that's coming up? Because you got to hold down the top market teams somehow from just signing all of the talent.
As you said, they could come in and swoop in and start, just signing all these, college seniors that, are talented that might go undrafted. So I got to imagine there would be some sort of limit to, how much money you can spend in that, that pool.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have rules.
It's going to everything's different. 5 round. Is there a reason? Is Corona the reason why they did this?
Yeah,
I mean, the football did their whole draft. I mean, what's the risk of having? What's the risk of having a 40-round draft this year?
Well, I don't. They could have pushed it back. I think the issue is that they decided to keep the draft on the same date on June 10th, and the college baseball season ended abruptly. I've played about 20 games, I think, max. Maybe some teams. High school seasons never really even started, so the evaluation of players, never really happened. So I think they just decided by keeping it on the same day instead of pushing it back, there's no point in drafting 40 rounds of people because you don't know. So I think that was the main driving. I don't know. I don't understand why they couldn't push it back since everything's on hold anyway. But
and it also, they're going to have to figure out coming up, will campuses have sports coming up? Like, will there be fall ball for colleges coming up? I mean, they canceled the Cape Cod League. Everything's going to get delayed with these kids.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. With the NCAA extending eligibility, there might not be as many kids coming out for the draft. Look, there's more than 5 rounds worth, but there are a lot of kids that are going to go back next year that missed out on their baseball season that are just taken away from the entire talent pool that would have been drafted this year. So, look, I bet they're going back. They're not going to change it they're not going to keep it at 5 forever. I'm sure this is a one-off thing, but yeah, I mean, you never know. This is just a crazy time. I can't stop saying it, but it's just wild what's going on.
Agreed.
All right. So let me hold on. I guess I'll do the. We done?
We need to wrap up somehow.
All right, we'll do wrap up. I'll do a final thought thing. All right. So that will just about do it for the second episode of Base Hit Ball 4. But before we go, Scott, Tyler, do you have any final thoughts, mostly regarding the negotiations that are going to take place in the next couple of weeks?
Ty, go ahead.
I just hope we have baseball. I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. I just hope that the Players Association and the MLB can kind of come up to a resolution here sometime within the next week, 2 weeks. Sooner the better, because players can start to prepare, get their arrangements in order, everything, how they're supposed to handle it prior to reporting the spring training or the shortened spring training. But look, I just want to watch baseball. That's my final thought, and it's going to be my thought for a while.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. As I said before, we're facing a crucial time here the next couple of weeks. Players and ownership need to, get it together, work together to find that, that even split of, where the money can, where the players can, feel comfortable. It's going to come down to safety. I think most importantly, it's going to be safety and then the money. But it's crucial times right now. I know, I agree. I want to watch baseball. It'll just be a distraction for us because for me personally, every day feels the same. I need something to change up my routine. And I know baseball would certainly provide that for me, being able to, at 7:05 turn on the Phillies game and watch, a game every single night for 82 days would be, wonderful. So Major League Baseball Players Union, let's get it together and let's get this done.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments. It would be a shame if money comes into the way. I agree that money is very important and players deserve to get compensated close to fair. Nothing's going to be fair in this situation, but it's important that baseball is played because it is America's pastime and it could help a lot of people. I know that's not what the players think, and it's their right to say that we need to get ours. I totally understand that, but we need baseball, and that's very important. So for Tyler Blumenstick and Scott Roswald, my name is Glenn Denegers. Thank you for watching or listening, however you're watching or listening to Base Hit Ball 4.